Chong. Y'all ready for this? Okay, so Annie is presenting first. She taught 20 children how to develop iOS applications in 2 10-day sessions. And so 12 to 14-year-olds learned from her how to develop apps. So she's extremely qualified to teach. And she was just a freshman last year, but she took it upon herself to learn, the tools of the trade. And yeah, and Timothy Chong over there, that awesome picture. He's been developing apps since he was born, out of the womb. Yeah, so he's qualified, and he's also a sophomore. But I'm a senior, and they both know more than me with app development. So I'll leave it to their capable hands. And
Tim, that is a wonderful picture.
Yeah, I was just going to say that these pictures I chose, and Tim didn't want a picture, so. But I think it's wonderful.
Yeah. Also, join the join.me/global apps to follow along. It's extremely crucial now that they might be going over some code that you will definitely want to see. So if you have your laptop, doesn't matter if you have a laptop or a Mac, go to join.me/global apps.
So it's important, so you guys know us. We want to know you. So how many engineers do we have? Raise your hand.
Oh my God.
Lots of engineers here. How many computer science people? Yeah, okay. Anyone else?
Great.
Ooh, cool.
We love you!
Yeah.
Don't leave.
What are you guys? Like, what is your background? SMG?
CS.
Awesome.
Yes.
Cool.
Anyone from Com?
Wait, was
Yeah,
that?
no. I just went to this awesome club, Digital Media Club. They learn how to build websites and stuff, and I thought it was really cool. And they're 75% Com, so we're trying to integrate them. So yeah, don't laugh. Some of them are cool.
So, how many of you have had some programming experience either in high school or in like EK 127, 128, CS 108 or 111? Are those the CS classes for intro programs? 111? 108 is for non-majors, right? Yeah, okay. So, wait, how many of you have some background? Okay, and how many of you might not have any background? That's okay. Okay, that works. So, in Objective-C, what we're doing is, it's built on C. There's a whole history of that. But the objective part comes from the fact that we're using an object-oriented mindset. So, you might be wondering, like, what's an object? Well, when we're doing apps, it would be something like a button, or an array, or all sorts of things. But for our purposes to start off, our object's going to be an animal, because we all know about animals, and it'll give us a framework on a concrete base to do this. So we just opened up Xcode. We're going in and don't we want to make, we'll make it. Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to make an application. We're not going to do anything with this application right now, so much as make a class. So you guys have your worksheet, right? Or like, worksheet. We were originally going to define these kind of keywords for you, but we thought it might be better for you guys to write down what's actually helpful for you.
Yeah.
Because you guys have different backgrounds, and some of you might want the higher level, more technical terms, and some of you might want all the harder.
Yeah, so pull out your pen or writing utensil and start taking notes.
So you guys all know about animals, right? Like a keyword for this object-oriented programming is the properties of it. So one property of an animal, as a very general class, would be the What is yes, the name of the animal. Thank you. Thank you. So we would have the name of the animal. So other options would be like the weight, the lifespan. We could have. You guys know a little bit about Booleans. Booleans are true or false. One of them we had was if it was cute or not. That's a property of an animal.
So basically, what I'm trying to do here is to make a class, which is like a template for making objects. So you don't have to follow me. I'm just showing you how to do it, and eventually you might get it. Or I mean, for now it doesn't matter. So let's say we have a class. We call it animal. So basically, it's a template for all the animals that you find in the that you're gonna use in your program. So so right now you're defining an animal, and then in animals, engineers. Okay, whatever. So doesn't matter. Just think that. Pretend that's an animal, and then you go.
Okay, so we have our properties like its name. So what we would do to declare this would be at property, which Tim's typing, and then there's this little thing in parentheses, non-atomic, comma, strong or weak. Are we not doing strong? Oh. Yeah. And so the type of the name would be a string. A string is just a series of characters, like a word, and a string can be specific. If you guys have questions, because I feel like I'm throwing out a lot of words and not explaining them, please raise your hand.
So let's say you want to declare a property of an animal, right? So let's say, what an animal can have. An animal can have a name, right? So I want to say property, in parentheses, non-atomic, and strong. Just take that, don't ask why. And then what kind of data type do you want it to be? In this case, a name is a string. And in ObjectiveC, a string is called an integer. Just take that. And then star means that it's an object. I don't think functions, but it means that it's an object that I want. And that object would have the name. So in other words, whenever you try to refer to that thing, you will say name. So for example, something, name, then you would be like, okay, I want the name of that thing. Well, we'll show you later, more examples.
So do you guys have some ideas for other properties an animal has?
Speech word?
Fine, yes, sure. Then that would be a string.
Yeah.
Because that's just a name. What
Color?
Color?
Color.
Yeah.
Okay. Color in Objective-C, there is another one called UI color. So we just do the same thing. What else can an animal have?
Age?
Age.
Wonderful.
Sure. We would just call it an integer. So integer is a primitive data type. So which means that it's not an object. It's something that is much primitive, more primitive. So you would say assign instead of just not saying anything. Integer, and then because it's not an object, so you don't have to put a star. What is it called? Age.
Yeah.
What else?
Wait.
Sure.
Wait, that's great.
So let's use double. Integer is an integer, so like it's an integer, and double can have decimals. Right? Because weight can have decimals. Well, it's technically age can also have decimals, but sign.
I feel like we skipped the part where we say why we're doing this.
Yeah.
Sorry about
Yeah,
that.
the reason why we're doing this is just because basically everything that you use are these. So there are a lot of these things already written for you. So for example, I'm talking about button. A button is actually just these. But then when they displayed it, they already wrote it for you. So you just
They
use
being
it.
Apple. Apple writes a lot
So
of
so
stuff
you
for
kind of
you don't
well you
write
get
them.
more of an idea later.
Yeah.
Question.
Yeah.
It's like NS string asterisk name assigning a variable to name. Is that what that is?
So NS string is the type. What kind of what name
So it's
is?
like a type
Is it a number? Is it a word?
Is name become a variable once you assign a type?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you want to refer to a name, you know, I want the name, you just say, you put name. Well, explain it, yes?
So the strong and assign, what is that?
So strong, for now, we don't even care about basic. I don't want to get too deep into this. But strong, and there's strong and weak. It's default to strong, so even if you don't put it, it's still strong.
It has
Yeah.
to do with inheritance and memory and
It has to do with memory.
how the
but-
compile will deal with it.
Yeah, and for now, just use strong.
Yeah.
But sometimes it will show up as weak. But no, the thing is, it will do it for you if it's weak. For now. And integer, double, they're primitive data type, so they use assign instead. And I think actually Apple is smart enough, even if you don't put assign to work. Yeah.
For the non-primitive one, you have to use an asterisk.
Yeah, exactly, because they are objects. All objects you need to put star, or else it will. Yeah.
What does a non-atomic mean?
Non-atomic don't care about that. Just put non-atomic all that because it's default to atomic, except that you don't know when you like.
No one really explains it if you read any
Even if you
book.
search online, it will give you some really hard. I mean, yeah, just don't care about it. Just put it there. Accept it.
It's the rule.
This one of ObjectiveC's little
Right.
Objective-C is a little funky compared to other languages for those who.
Well, technically, it's about like time
experience.
synchronization inside the hardware, but you don't even care about that. But anyways, okay. More questions?
Yeah, that's a question on that.
Okay.
Okay, so those might be some of our properties we have. Animals aren't just something that's just there, right? Animals do things, right? So likewise, in our programs, objects are going to do things. So how we accomplish tasks is through various methods. So in our header file, which is where we're writing right now, we're going to declare our method, as Tim will once we come up with one. And the point of the header file is kind of like your table of contents for your entire program. Because as you can imagine, there becomes a lot of code. And over in our implementation file or the .m file is where we put all of the code for what actually happens.
So basically, each class has two files. One is a .h file, which is a header file, which contains all the properties. And then we have a .m file, which contains all what the object actually does. So, for example, here, let's make a function. Well, let's make a method. So, what can an animal do?
Animals can eat, right? Right? Yeah?
Let's say animal
Yeah?
eat. So what happens is, it depends on what you want. So let's say I just want you to eat. I don't want you to tell me whether you're done eating or anything like that.
So we
Then
don't
you
want
say
an output.
void. That's just when you don't want it to tell me anything after you're eating. Then you just say void and whatever you want a method name called. In this
Usually
case, it
it's
will be void.
very Englishy in Objective-C.
Right.
Conventions make it as Englishy as possible. You'll notice that the methods Apple writes, some of them will take up more than a whole line because they
Yes.
explain exactly what happens as it goes.
So yeah, another one would be, well, obviously string. And
What if we wanted to eat something specific, like another object, like a plant? So we probably still don't want an output, but we would want an input. So Tim, why don't you show us?
so, okay, let's say you want to eat.
Eat plant.
But then what do you put in there?
Then we have another object class called NSPlant. It doesn't really exist.
Okay, fine. So what about eat animal? So, so in that case, what happens is I want to give it an animal to eat. So how do I give it an animal? So what happens is you first need to refer to the class of whatever animal it is, right? What is the class of the animal?
Animal,
The
right?
class would be animal, right? So you say animal, star, and then just give it a random name for that animal so that you can refer it to it.
We'll call it dinner.
Okay, fine. So,
Don't forget about the spelling of animal.
I'm not sure if it's gonna complain later on.
It's
You know
gonna
what?
complain later on. You're just gonna have to spell it.
This type animal, you know. Yeah. What's your question?
I'm a little confused about what you're doing, the commands there. Like when you say you can just say eat or drink, are you assigning that name to something, or is it like a
This is our method name. So then when we go over to the .m file, we'll declare it again, and then we'll use curly braces and write code for how eating will happen.
You're
So
sort of just putting down, like you're calling something that you haven't actually written down yet?
Exactly.
Okay.
So we're just saying, okay, you and you're an animal, and what you can do, you can eat, you can drink, you can eat animal when I give you a dinner. Basically that, so far. And, well, that's a simple case where I don't want to get anything back. But let's say I want to get something back. Let's say I want, okay, I'm going to give you an animal that's alive, and I want you to kill it and kill it. Okay. So in that case, I'm not going to put void again. Instead, I put animal again, because I know that you're going to give me back an animal. I don't know whether it's dead or not. Well, again.
Yes.
So why do you put an asterisk inside the bracket with animal?
For all objects. Whenever you're referring to for all objects, whenever you
because as part of the syntax of this, it's based on C, but it doesn't relate very well.
So basically, for any objects you want to put in, you have to say that, okay, this is an object, and the object class type is animal.
The asterisk basically indicates that
Whatever
it's
you
an
want to
object.
whatever you want to give it
Versus a
to
primitive.
something, you have to say, what is this?
So if it was an int and we had that as our output, we wouldn't have the asterisk because an integer isn't an object.
Right.
Right.
Primitive.
So let's say I want to say eat animal. I want to give in how many animals you eat. I would say int, and then give it a number. And by the way, this number thing, you can just name it whatever you want. It doesn't have a number. You can just say, you can put whatever you want. Make sense?
So for those of you with some programming background, methods are very similar to functions. They're just specific to an object. And the objects in a lot of ways are specific to variables. It just has more finesse to how we define it, like how much you can add to it, than a typical variable. Yes.
Which is the header file and sort of like a main method something like that?
No, header file is just, again, so let's say, so what happens is when you code, all the other programs are just going to look at their header file and be like, oh, does this method have that function? If it's like, oh yeah, I have it, then I can just say, okay, I'm going to let you compile. Or else, if it's not in the header file, it will be like, oh, it doesn't work, then it's not going to compile, it's going to complain. So they just look in the header file more, rather than just looking at the entire M file, which is the implementation file, which is on the right.
Another, yeah.
So there are two files.
There are two
Okay,
files
look over here.
combined.
There's .h and .m. .h is a header file, which is just listing out what this thing can do. And .m is actually how it does it.
Another perspective on it is the .h file is a public file, and the .m is a private file.
Kind of.
So when you for other users who might want to use your object, they can have access to your header file, but they don't have access to your .m file or implementation file.
Okay, so here, let's add one more for the purpose of demonstration. I wanted to increment age. So what it does is, yeah, they get older, right? So one thing that you can do is to become older, basically. So what this method's going to be is, I'm going to give it a number of ages. Like, let's say I want you to be 3 years older. Then I'm going to put 3 into this. And then what it's going to do is to make itself 3 years older. Does it make sense?
No.
Okay, so right now this is a header file, it makes sense, right? And then in the implementation, file, it's actually kind of complaining right now. Why? Because it sees that, okay, I have these things that I can do, but how do I do it? It's complaining because I didn't include all these functions inside. So what do? What you do is basically you copy the exact same thing. E, and then start the parentheses. That's what you actually do in for that method. So for each of them, it's going to be like this. String, void, See, now it's not complaining anymore because, okay, I know that these are all how I'm going to do this. So why is this complaining here? It's because it knows that it has to return something, but it's doing nothing inside. It's not giving out anything. So I give you an animal and you don't give me something back. So it's just complaining. If I say return nil, which means nothing, then it's like a complaint. You just have to say that I'm returning something.
Also, the complaining that Tim's talking about is from before there was a little like yield sign, a little yellow triangle with the exclamation point. And that's a warning. It would still compile. It's not a full-on error that would crash the program. But yeah, the yellow guy that shows up there and on the side. No, it's not the side right now. But those are your errors, and you'll see those, and hopefully we can help you with this.
And that's basically how you implement. And what you want to, let's say, okay, I want to eat something. Then you're going to call this method, and then what you're going to do in the eat method is going to be implemented here. Whatever you want it to do, the actual eating part. So let's, for an example, if I want to increment age, and I give you a number for the age number that you want to increment. How are we going to do this? So first, I have an age here. I have to take this age and then increment it with the number. Is that right? Does that make sense?
So increment is like
increment is just like I give you an age. I want you to add that to yourself. Right? So for increment age, I get the number, and then first I need to take whatever it is yourself for the age. So for example, so here we're going to go self.age, which means that I'm taking myself, I'm taking my age, is equal to, what do you do? Yes, self.age plus num.
What's num?
Num is this number.
Yeah,
I
sure,
give you
but
a number, and
what
I'm
is
just
it for the animal?
I'm just referring back to this number. Oh, if I change this, I can change it to anything. Number of years. I can just change it to anything. Basically what it's saying is that whatever number you give me, I'm going to add that to my own age. Yes?
Would it create an error if you don't use self.age and just use the
Yes,
age?
it actually, which class was it? Yeah, see, it does. So what you do it, well there's another way to do it, but it's fine.
How you access
For now just
properties?
do it as
It's how we're accessing the property is because it's from self. The dot says one of the properties within, and that particular property is age.
When you want to access a property, you always do something, the property name, dot, whatever the property name, the property
The
name
object
is.
name.
Yeah. So for example, I want to get the color. Then I just say self by color.
Why is it self?
Because
Self
it's
the name of the thing? Or?
no, whatever object it is, it's referring to itself. It doesn't have to be self. Well, in this case, it's self because it's adding to itself. But if it wants to do, like, if it wants to do something with another object, it can just refer to that object dot something. You're gonna see how it's actually used later on.
Okay.
Like these are very advanced concepts because usually when you take an introduction to programming class, you guys learn like, what is it? You start with like variables and then functions, for loops, while loops, and what else? Like,
Yeah.
you start with all that stuff and usually you don't touch on this object-oriented stuff. It's kind of a different approach. Some people say it's building on, some people say it's just a whole different approach.
So any question on this?
Programming
Because I think we're kind of, oh, yeah. So right now, this is the animal that we have. And how do we use it? So let's say I want to, well, just ignore all these. Let's say I want to call this. I want to use the animal class. I want to make an animal in this thing. How do I make it? So first of all, this is an implementation file of something. You don't care. Well, right now it says app delegate, but it can happen anywhere. You just need to import that animal to say that, okay, I have this animal here. I'm going to use the animal. So realize that it's, notice that it's animal.h instead of .m because it just looks at the animal the header file. It doesn't care what the implementation is. All it cares is what functions it has, what it can do, or what properties it has. So how do I do it? Okay, this is going to be a little confusing, but just, yeah, we'll see how it happens. So you go animal, first you call it type name, and then give it a name. So let's say I want to make a dog. It's equal to animal, well, again, they're all animals. Star, Aleph, just init. Whenever you want to create an object, that's what you call Aleph init. Just memorize it. You use it all the time. Whenever you want to make an object file, you just get that name, and then Aleph, and then bracket, and init, bracket. So now you have an object that is a dog, that is named a dog. So you can set its property to something, right? So let's say I want the dog's name to be what?
Come on, our dog has a name, doesn't it?
Rover.
Rover? Okay.
How do you spell that? So now I want to change the name of the dog, right? So how do I access this property? So remember that in the file before, .h, we have this name here. And now I want to change this name. How do I change it? So I go .name, which is the name of that property, is equal to, so in other programming languages, you might just put in quotes. But then in ObjectiveC, everything is an object. So what you do is you do at and whatever it is inside. That's a name. So this is just an object that is an NS string that we talked about, NS string. And then how you make an NS string is by doing that. So right now this is a string, an object that has this string in it, that has this word in it.
NS strings actually have a shortcut, and that's what this
Yeah,
add
this is a
equals
shortcut.
is. Usually you don't get such nifty shortcuts for
Yeah. For other,
initializing.
I mean, we can do it a difficult way, but that's not good. And then let's say, yeah.
Wait, sorry, why did you import animal and where did you?
Because so you have to tell the file that I'm going to use this, or else it won't know where to look for your animal.
Where did you get it? Where did you import it from?
I just put it there.
Oh.
So
Originally it's like that, and then right now, okay. Oh, I want to use the animal class. So how do I do this? I just put import animal.
Wouldn't you make an animal class somewhere? Or is
Oh,
it
yeah.
this?
The animal class was the one that we were doing at the beginning.
Oh,
It's in the same project directory.
okay.
but we
So I
still
just
have
say-
to import it so that it makes the connection.
Exactly. Or
There's
else
a
it
whole
won't
lot
know.
of underlying stuff we'd like to not
So that's
get.
okay. Let's say I take this out. Oh, well. See, it's going to complain because it doesn't know where to find animal.
It thinks you made something up.
And then, so now this is a property, how you access the property of the dog. So if I wanted to do something, so let's say I wanted to, what are the functions that we had before? Any method. We can ask it to E, right? Then I go dog, E, and then just bracket it.
Did you guys notice how as he was typing that, some stuff came down.
Yeah, this is where it just comes in handy when you type when your methods are super long.
And methods will often be.
See, this is a method. By the way, this is a method. See how long it is?
Like that whole thing, the
This whole thing is a method.
application did finish launching with options is the name of the method.
Exactly. Oh, we can actually look into this. So what it's going to return? It's going to return a boolean. A boolean is a yes or no. And it's going to take in a class that is UI application, and the name is going to be application, and it's also going to take in NS dictionary, and the name is launch object, which you don't really care about. So basically what you need to know is that a class or an object has properties and has functions. And then how you run a method of that class or that object is put in the name of the variable and then the method name and then just bracket them. Yes?
So at runtime, this method is kind of like the main method for this whole.
Okay, so yes. Well, I was thinking of when I should talk about this. So what happens is for any iPhone program, you will have an app delegate. And at runtime, when your program is loaded, this is the very, very first program it's going to call. So it's a main method, kind of, if you know what it is. So this method is a main method. Yes?
So objects have functions and properties.
Right.
And so it's sort of like the properties change what the object is, and the function is what the object does.
Yes, yes.
Exactly.
So for example, me, I can have a name, I can have anything. Object is just something that an object contains. I mean properties.
Also, NS string and UI color were object types that come with ObjectiveC, but you
Yes.
created a new object type called animal, and that's what it was.
Yes.
Exactly.
So for example, you want to create a UI color or NS string. You can just say NS string dot and your name and dot NS string. Remember the same thing. Ella and it. Then you create a string. Call that str. And by the way, you can actually put this string here as well. You can just do it. Oh yeah, let's say I want to set this animal name. Let's say I want to set this animal name. Instead of doing that, I can just do str. That will work as well. As long as they're the same type, you can put it in.
I think what makes this confusing,
Yes.
Objective-C, is that Apple has so much of a framework built for you and like a gazillion libraries with endless documentation if you ever look on their website, that it's difficult to see how you use that and how you create it. Since usually when you're programming, you create most everything you use except for the most
Right.
basic
It's not
functions.
like your computer class where you write everything.
Like if we
A
made
lot
a
of
list
things
of
are made for
keywords,
you. For example, end string, it's made for you. UI color is made for you. What else? Tons of things. All the buttons later we're going to talk about, if we have time, are going to be made for you already. Any question? Yeah.
How did you, just kind of on the side, how did you drag up that one line to the other line? The NS string, did you like drag it up?
Like that. Oh, well, it just, no, you just drag it.
Oh, you just drag it. Okay. I just didn't do it right.
So if you want to put in, if you want to give it something, so let's say it's a function that takes in something. Remember the one that we talked about here? Let's say increment age, number of years. So let's say I want to use that method. I wanted to increment its age. So I do dot increment age, then it's gonna be a colon, and then write whatever number you want to include. Let's say 3 years. So when you call that, dot is going to increment itself by 3 years. 2 years. Make sense?
maybe.
Any question?
This is kind of our like crash course on the syntax
originally we were-
and the method, like the mindset that you need, so that after pizza in a minute, we can go into building our little sample app. And you can
Originally
use
we were not putting it in because we thought that this is important, so we added it in there. This is probably the best part.
Alright, this is actually the best part. This is the meat and the sandwich. This is the.
You're actually making something.
Anyway, yeah, so I'm going to pass it back off to Timothy and Annie. And we have some important announcements at the end, so stay tuned. We'll try not to go too far. We'll end at 1. So, fair enough.
So the way this is gonna work is that I'm gonna show you something. I'm gonna show you how to do it, and then maybe for like 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and then at your exam period, you can ask me questions, but not like person-specific questions where what like, oh, this doesn't work. Why? Don't ask that same question. So you just gotta ask me why I do that or things like that, and then after that, I'm gonna let you guys do it and to get to whatever I've done.
And then we'll be going around helping.
Exactly. We're going to be going around and help you figure out what the problem is. And hopefully, we get as much people as we can where they're at working. So what we're going to do today, round, is to make an app that has a text field on top. And that text field, of course, you can type in things. And then after you type it in, you press send message, and then that message is going to show up at the bottom of that field. Of that view. Is that okay? So yeah, basically that's what I'm going to do. So first of all, open Xcode. Ready? Create a new Xcode project. Whoa, this is fancy. And then, well, the older versions are going to be less childish. Oh, is it not?
Can you do the lights?
The front lights over the screen.
Yeah.
Are you still doing that thing where we can follow you on our computers?
Oh, right.
Is it not?
Oh, we didn't switch. We switched computers and we didn't switch that. Sorry. We could do it up there. Okay, well, Tim's working on the lights, and we'll get join.me. Work on that. Anyway, well, during the pizza break, I was talking to some people, and they were wondering how did we learn what we know. And the thing is it's really difficult to get started, and we're trying to keep this in a place where you can get that right mindset in order to program in ObjectiveC, because ObjectiveC is not a language where you are an expert and at any point ever. You are always using reference materials. This is interesting.
Turned on.
So, we just want to get you guys in a place where you can get there. Okay, basically, I use this book, which is wonderful. I use asking Tim a lot of questions because Tim took a course in high school. Dave is back there. He's our treasurer, if you didn't know. He has some books that we have ordered. There are more on the way. That would be wonderful references. I located on the View library digital books that we have access to for free. So you just use your Turbo's password, and all of a sudden you have a whole ebook. I think I found 5 or 6 of them. My recommendation, though, is to kind of pick a book that, maybe read some reviews on Amazon, because it'll tell you what level it's tailoring to and how people found it, and kind of go with it and ask us questions if you want to learn more and practice more, of course. Here is kind of to give you the overview and hopefully the basic tools to get into it more. Also, Stanford has really wonderful lectures that are on iTunes U. They're like hour-and-a-half lectures. They have materials to go along with it, like assignments that get you the practice. The best way to learn really is by doing. So that's kind of where we are. Ask us questions.
All right. So back to single view application, right? Press next. So it's actually what it means. Like it's an application with one view. If you want to know what it means, then just give a name. And organization name, identifier. Well, we can just make them up. Choose iPhone. And press next. And then it's going to ask you for your file directory. Just put it somewhere that you know where it is. Boom, then you're here. So realize how like if you have app delegates, and if people know what a main function is, this is basically a main function. Because every time your program is run, this is going to be the first one that's being called. And this, so basically right now, again, it's a single view application, so it only has one view, which is this view. So this is a view, and we can actually do whatever we want with it. Basically, when you run your program, this is going to be the first thing that shows up. So again, what we're going to do today is to make a text field and then input things, press send, and show up. So what 3 components we want that would be helpful in this? That you remember Jane showed us a lot of different things. What do you think there are which 3 are going to be useful? Keyboard, you don't need a keyboard. Keyboard shows up itself. Like, that's a good thing about Apple, because when you choose a text field, it's going to show up. Apple already did it. So let me tell you at least one.
Why don't you just put them all up? And then you can run it, and then you'll have it on this. If you run it with just the button, just press.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Well, actually, we can just try to run it now, and it's just going to show you a blank screen, supposedly. If it doesn't, then something's wrong. Oh.
You ran it
I
on the
thought
iPad.
that's an iPhone.
Is it not as good?
Yeah, that's an iPhone. Is that correct? Yeah, that's an iPhone. So, anyways, yeah, this is an iPhone, and right now you have nothing.
That's our app.
This
That's
is
kind of
Xcode,
useless.
right?
Because we learned
So,
to use analysis.
what you're gonna do now, or in a second, is you're gonna drag three things out from the side. When it's a text field, then you type your image in, your words in. The second one is gonna be a button that you press the send button. And the third one is going to be a label that shows whatever it is there.
And you'll also notice how those blue lines is here. Apple is very helpful, making it so you can line things up and make it look neat and tidy.
Okay. So, can we just stop here and then jump into it? So, okay. Oh, I'll just quickly show you some, and you guys can do this if you haven't done it yet. When you press this, it's going to show up on your screen, right? These are just the button, text field. And when you check the text field, see, it's going to show a text. It's going to show keyboard, so you don't have to do it yourself. And the annoying thing is, it's not going to disappear.
Well,
So,
press high. Do high right now.
It's too high, and it's not going to disappear. Whatever.
It's not going to do anything.
Exactly, and also
And
buttons.
the reason
you can
because
click it.
we haven't done any programming
Exactly.
to make it do
So
anything.
right now it's
right
just
now
do
they're
that.
just there.
So now you guys can do it. Are all of you done already? Does anyone have any questions? Like, oh, all clear? Yeah.
What do you do if you have like a really old version? Because I have a small version.
Do you have Xcode?
Yeah.
As long as you have an Xcode, it should work. Did you upgrade your Xcode?
It doesn't like let me upgrade because I'm like Xcode 3. Whatever.
We can definitely look at that with you.
Okay, sweet.
Wait, so is everyone else done with that completely? Have you tried playing it? I mean, running it? And everything works? Okay, cool. They have the same question. Yeah.
So, yeah. There's a text field, a label, and a button.
Page button. Oh, no.
So you have to.
Just make sure that everyone can have this thing.
Those are all your objects. So I default.
Oh, whoa, that's not good.
And then press it. Oh, by the way, running is that play button over there.
Yeah, I have
Well, what do you
Stop button.
round and label? You can always do a search.
Any question? Anyone? Keyboard. Press a run, and that thing's gonna show up, and then when you press it. Oh, it's not hard to get it. Sorry. Oh, by the way, you can ask him as well. He can also help you.
Yes.
Yeah, this is like
What's the problem? That's what it's supposed to
Well, I got like a otherwise it works fine, it's just like I can't get the storage for and the app store doesn't work.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I figured
Kind of gave up on that. I'm more of an Android person, so.
Did you press run?
Yeah.
That's that the next thing. I'll keep talking.
Okay. So we're clear, right? We're gonna keep going then. So what happens is, right now, here, you have this text field and a button labeled up. And you have to connect them, because right now you can't do anything with it. You have to connect it with code. So what you're gonna do, this is a view, and this view is actually implemented in this view controller, .h and .m. It should be in your file. If it's not, then that's weird. So what you're gonna do is press Command, Option, Enter. Command, Option, Enter. And this thing is gonna pop up. This is a .m file. Well, it might not be .m file for you, but anyways, you're gonna choose the .h file, which is right here. So this is basically where the programming part comes in for your view. Yeah?
Sam, how did you get it so that you have both of those open? Like, is that what that little like tailor looking like butler guy is? That's how you can get both of them open?
Oh yeah, that works as well.
Called the assistant editor.
Assistant editor. Yeah, I do Command, Option, Enter.
Commands, that's how I can do
Yeah, that works as well.
So then I have 2 screens. That's awesome. Thanks.
So does it work for everyone? So what happens now is, right now your view controller does not have any property of that button, which means that even if it contains it, it cannot use it. Remember the class that we were talking about where it has properties? Right now this controller should have a property of the button, but then it doesn't. So what are you going to do is to establish that property. So how are you going to do that? Of course, if you want to do it, you can do property, boom, 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 but we're not going to do that. Because there's an easier way to do that, which is to point at whatever it is, press, give me 1 second, not this, press Control, and drag it onto the .h file between interface and end. Holding Control, drag it to the .h file between interface and end. So right now you have a property of this object, and realize that this is weak, and don't ask why, just accept it. So what is the name? We can just name it something. So I'm going to name it text field. So, oh, by the way, I didn't mention that before. So the convention for naming variables is lowercase and then uppercase. First letter uppercase of the second word. And then if you keep going, you just go happy. Anyways, then what you do is you connect. Then that makes a connection. So right now, this view controller has a property which is the buttons. I mean, not the buttons, the text field. So we want another one for the label. Let's do a label first, and then we're going to do a button. Do the exact same thing. Control, drag, and then realize it's a weak again. Let's call it label. Well, label, yeah. right now we have two properties. One is a label and one is a text field. For button, we don't want a property. Why? Because what we care is that the button is being pressed. That's all we care. We don't want to know about the button's color, background color. If you want, you can use a property. But now, for the sake of this presentation, we're not going to use properties. Why? Again, because we're only focusing on what it does when it's being pressed. So we're going to do the exact same thing, except this time it's not an outlet. It's not a property. We choose an action. And then we give it a name, call. So what happens is I'm going to make a method. And the method is being called when this button is being pressed.
So call it button press?
Yes,
Cool.
so I'm going to bring it button.
Yeah.
Connect. And by the way, just a side note, if you guys made any errors, like dragging and then, oh, I did something wrong, just by doing that, will kill your program. Like, no, you won't kill it, but it will not work. Just say it. So, okay. Right now I have a method here. It's called button press. Yeah.
How do you delete things then?
So how do you delete things? Good question. How do you delete things? Let's say I don't want this outlet anymore. I have to do three things. One thing is delete this. And the second thing is going to be going into the .m file, because Apple's smart. Whatever you do things, it's going to make this function for you already, so it won't complain. You have to, well, I'm just kidding. It's a property, so there are only two things. If it's function, there are three things, right? So it's a property, so I just delete this, and that's not going to work, because when you run it, it's going to throw an error. You can try. Then what else you need to do is to delete this connection from the, well, in that case, I deployed it and delete the label, right? So I need to delete this label's connection. How do I do that? I press the label, memorize this, go all the way to the right, the very last one. Show the connection inspector. This is the connection inspector. So what you need to do is to delete this connection here. Then now you're free to go. Free to continue. But yeah, but I mean, I'm just going to add it back.
Connections are one of the biggest errors.
Right,
ever,
right.
Especially among 12-year-olds. And also
So
19-year-olds like myself.
if you want to delete the connection of a button of a method, you have to do one more thing, which is also to delete this, and then go into here, and then delete the connection here, and then but then you have to do one more step, which is go into .m file and also delete this, which is one more thing, one more step. Okay, awesome. So now, what we're going to do is, right now we have this view controller, and we have two properties, right? And then we have this method call that I declared to be, okay, I'm not, right now this view controller, I have two properties, and I have this thing that I can do, which is to button press, being pressed. And then I'm going to go into the .m file, which is right here, to the right, and I'm going to say what I'm going to do now. So when the button's pressed, what am I going to do?
We probably want to move our text from there, right, to the label, right? That's kind of our goal in our
So
little
our goal for this
yeah.
is to press the button, and then this label is going to change to whatever it is inside. So how am I going to do this? Any ideas? No.
Do you think maybe that text field has a property? Like, I know you guys don't know everything about these, but it turns out text field has a property called the string in it, basically. It's not exactly called the string, but text field. But
So
you
then
probably
what
want to take that out, right? And
So-
then store it
into the label.
that property in the label, right?
Take the text in that object, and then put it into label. Right? That makes sense. So right now we're going to do that. So first of all, we have to point something to point to that text. So how do we do it? So we know that texts are, what is the type? Can someone tell me? What is the type of a text, of a string in ObjectiveC?
And a string. right?
Remember? And a string, give a name. What do you want to call it? Or just call it string? Oh, text as well. And how am I going to do it this time? Is remember what how we comment it? We call first the name, the variable itself, which is we need to call the text field. So how do you call that? You say self dot text field. Right now I'm referring to that text field. Oh, did I do this? Then what do I do? So that text field is like one of the classes that we talked about earlier. It has a lot of properties inside and a lot of functions, but we don't care about. We only care about the ones that we use. So how do we call that? So what do we want? We want the text inside. And if you look into documentation, or if you know it, it's just self.text. So right now, this variable text is going to contain the text inside this thing, whatever it is. We don't know. And see that there's a warning here because you're not using it, you're just getting it. That's why it's warning. So what do you do next? After I get this text out, I want to put it into this label. Then what do? First, I have to go into the properties of this label and take out the text and then change it to that text, to the text that we got from in this variable. So what we do, again, so first we refer to the label itself. We do self.label. Right now, this is referring to the label, and then we need to get its property as a text. We need to get its text property. So right now, this entire thing refers to the text inside the label. And I want to change that to text. Oh, by the way, ending each line with semicolon. Semicolon.
That's the first thing on the little reference sheet from what you should gather from today. It's important.
Does that make sense to everyone? Does anyone have a question?
And the last thing's clear here.
Right. Wait, clear. Oh, yeah, we'll do that. Okay. Does that make sense? Okay. If no one has any question, we're going to continue. So, usually when you press a button and the message is being sent out to here, I would want to clear whatever is originally in this text. So how would I do that?
Maybe we want to set the string in there to something different. Like what would be a cleared one? Like an empty string maybe?
Yeah. So making it blank is the same as making this empty string. So what we do is, again, we do the exact same thing. We refer it, we need to take that thing out, which is self.text field. Right now I'm referring to that text, and then I go dot text. So right now I'm just taking the text out from the text field. That's accessing its property, basically. And then what do I set it to? I want to set it to an empty string. How do you set it to an empty string? And as I said before, remember, when I want to set it to something, I just do this, right? I can type whatever it is. If it is like that, then when I press a button, then this string is going to put into, this string is going to put into there. So I don't want to do that. I just want to make it empty. Yeah?
Did you say nil, or would that make it mad?
Yes, it will make it. It will probably make it mad because nil means that the object doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
So you're pointing it to nothing.
A good question.
But right now it's still an object. The object still exists, except that there's nothing inside. Yes?
Does the order of which lines we implement matter? So is it important that we put self.textfield.text equals blank at the very end?
That could be second.
Oh, you're saying this one up there?
Yep.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
That doesn't matter.
Yeah. Because, yeah, this is not going to affect that. These two are independent. Kind of. No, actually, it does.
Okay.
It does. Of course it does. You're saying this one up there, right? No, then you can't do that. You're saying putting this text up here before this? Like you're saying
Staying in the middle.
this? No, it would not be fine.
Okay.
Because if you do that, then the text is going to be set to blank and then put it into label.
Okay.
And the label is going to be blank.
So
Okay.
when it executes, it reads it straight down.
So,
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So now, when you press run, and when I type something here, button. Oh, well, the label is not big enough. Let me make a label. Boom.
So can you change what it says up here?
Yes, you can change it to anything you want. Let's say you want to change it to, let's say you want to change it to cents. Okay. Be careful. All clear? Cool. So now the problem is, oh my god, this thing does not disappear. How would it disappear? So what happens is, well, you just have to know this. There's like nothing to guess about this. Or, I mean, you can search online. But what you're gonna do is you're actually gonna call this text field and saying, "I'm done with you. Go away." So I'm done using you. You can resign. So what you do is you do the exact same thing. Self.text field. Except this time you are not accessing a property. You're asking it to do work. So what are you asking it to do work? What do you ask? I'm asking you to resign. So what you do is you just call resign first responder. And remember, this is how you call a method, right? Whatever the thing is, the method name, and then brackets.
So now it should go away.
And then if you save this and run this, boom.
Goes
It
away.
says here.
So there's other stuff that you can do if you were over on that right-hand bar. Like, yeah, that's your right-hand side, right? The fourth one over, I think, you have the options to change some of your settings. Like, you could change the text color permanently. You could add like a little X button. So if you want to just delete everything all at once that you have in there, like never mind, you can have that option. You could have placeholder text. You can play around with these things. We're pretty much done with this, but we wanted, if you guys have questions, we'll be around if you have those. You want to try stuff out.
If you guys want to learn more, because we
Yeah.
can.
You guys probably have homework since you're all very busy majors.
Because this thing is
And
supposed
it's
to
the
go to
weekend.
one, so.
Hold on. Go to that slide that has.
Oh, that's on the other one. Other computer. It is on the drive.
Alright, go ahead.
Okay. One more time. Are you
Alright, so guys, some of you asked me questions as to like when are we getting into teams, and so we're getting into teams this Wednesday. I think I have like 6 nonprofits lined up to present, and this way, you know, you'll actually have a real app to start designing and building for. So that's Wednesday in Science Room 113 at 7 p.m. And we're having another training session. I mean, today we kind of just put everything in there. This is training session 1. We had needs analysis and design, a basic like code syntax review, and then a little bit of programming. So we did a lot today. I don't think our next training sessions are going to be that, you know, full, but it was a good introductory course, and
And it's going to be more coding.
Yeah.
Except letting you guys just sit here and listen to it.
So now you guys got your feet like pretty wet, they're soaking. And next time we have another instructor who has significant experience in Android, and I know a lot of you are interested in Android development as well. So we have Android, and then we're going to continue with iOS too. So yeah, Timothy and Kevin will be teaching that seminar, and we're going to break off. We're going to be breaking off. We have different modules for like maybe design, needs analysis, and that kind of thing. But it'll be more separate now. So you'll only go to the modules that you're interested in. If you want to learn programming and design, go to both modules. But we'll separate them from now on. Today we just want to expose you guys to everything. So also, our videos are going to be up on YouTube. Go search for GAI. We have our own webpage, and I'm going to make sure that, I know my emails can be kind of long, but like they'll contain, the information as to like where the YouTube page is. And if you're not on the Facebook page, we'll have a lot of updates there. So Facebook and YouTube are a great place to catch up on us. So thank you for coming. Hopefully one slice of pizza was enough. And all right.